What happens when Hollywood's favorite tough guy walks headfirst into a lion's den disguised as a talk show? Mark Wahlberg thought it was just another friendly promotional pit stop on The View, but what he got instead was a televised ambush that turned from awkward to explosive in mere minutes. Behind the studio lights and cheery applause, something darker was brewing. Producers were whispering frantically behind the scenes. Security edged closer to the set. Because this wasn't a typical celebrity segment, this was a clash of egos, politics, and personal demons that was about to unravel in front of millions. If you're into jaw-dropping celebrity moments that spiral out of control, hit that like button and stay tuned because this story is only just getting started. Mark stepped onto the set with that familiar Boston swagger, adjusting his tie as he flashed a winning smile to the audience. The crowd welcomed him warmly, but his instincts kicked in the moment his eyes met Joy Behar's. There was something icy behind her grin, something that didn't match the script his publicist had reassured him with. He'd faced critics, endured jabs from late-night hosts, but this felt different. "Welcome back to The View. I'm Joy Behar," she announced with a gleam in her eye. "And today, we're joined by Mark Wahlberg." "Mark, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time." The edge in her voice wasn't lost on him. He took his seat, posture straight, that signature Wahlberg confidence still intact. "Thanks for having me, Joy. Always good to be here with you ladies," but Joy's smile curled at the edges like a wolf sizing up its prey. "Oh, is it though?" she asked, voice laced with venom. "Because I seem to remember you having some pretty strong opinions about people in my line of work." A ripple of discomfort moved through the studio. The air changed. This wasn't light banter anymore. This was a setup. Mark's jaw tightened. "I think you might be taking something out of context there, Joy." But she wasn't letting go. She shuffled her cue cards like a lawyer preparing cross-examination. "Quote," she read with dramatic flair, "some of these Hollywood types need to stick to what they know instead of lecturing working-class Americans about politics. Sound familiar?" Mark leaned in slightly, voice firm but measured. "That wasn't aimed at anyone in particular, Joy, and honestly, I stand by it. There's a difference between having an opinion and talking down to people." Her eyes narrowed. "Talking down to people," she repeated, like she was savoring the phrase. "That's rich, coming from someone who's made a career out of playing the streetwise tough guy. Tell me, Mark, when did you become the official voice of the working class?" The temperature dropped like someone had opened a freezer door. Even Whoopi Goldberg looked like she wanted to disappear behind the desk. This wasn't the promo chat they'd rehearsed. Mark's voice stayed steady, but his accent grew thicker. He was getting agitated. "I never claimed to be anyone's spokesperson, but I grew up in Dorchester, Joy. I know what it means to hustle, to work 3 jobs just to survive. I didn't grow up cracking jokes in a studio, pretending to understand real struggle." Joy's smile faded. Her tone sharpened. "Ivory tower, huh? That what you think I am? Let me remind you, I've been in this business since before you were a household name. I earned my seat at this table, and I've earned the right to challenge opinions I find dangerous." Mark didn't flinch. "You sit up here every day raking in millions while telling people how to vote, how to think, how to live. Meanwhile, the people you're preaching to, they're worried about groceries and rent." The studio was stone silent now. No one dared breathe. Whoopi raised a hand to pause the storm. "Maybe we take a quick break," she offered, but Joy was locked in. "No," she said flatly, "I want to hear this. Please, Mark, tell us how we should use our platforms. Should we skip the real questions and go straight to the weather report? Or should we just ask about your latest film and ignore everything else?" Mark's fists tightened against the table. "You're proving my point right now, Joy. You're not here to have a real conversation. You're here to make headlines by trying to drag me down." "What you said was ignorant," she snapped, mask fully off now. "You want to talk about the working class? My dad drove a truck in Brooklyn. Don't you dare lecture me on struggle." His voice rose, cracking through the silence like thunder. "Then why do you treat people like they're beneath you? You mock what they believe. You ridicule their values every single day." Joy let out a sharp laugh. "Their values? You mean the values that got you arrested as a kid? The values that landed you in court for hate crimes?" And just like that, the air got sucked out of the room. Mark's face drained of color, then burned red. "That's a low blow, even for you." Joy didn't flinch. "Is it, though? If we're talking about values, let's talk about yours. The real Mark Wahlberg, not the one your PR team polished up for the big screen." Mark stood abruptly. The chair scraped across the floor like a gunshot. "You see what this is? This isn't an interview. It's a hit job, and I won't sit here and let you tear me down for sport. The camera zoomed in. Producers scrambled behind the glass, trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let the fire burn. Joy leaned back, smug satisfaction written across her face. Oh, so you're walking out now. How very working class, hero of you. Mark's fists were clenched tight. I'm not walking away from anything. I'm just done playing your game. My game? She sneered. You walked onto my stage. You're a guest in my house. If you can't take the heat, you shouldn't have stepped in the kitchen. Whoopi tried again, voice strained. Joy, maybe we can move on to the film? No! Joy cut her off, never breaking eye contact with Mark. The audience deserves to know the truth about who they're applauding. He wants to talk about values, let's go there. Mark sat back down slowly, his jaw tight, eyes burning with barely concealed fury. Fine, he said, the room still hanging on every word. Mark leaned in, his voice cold and razor sharp. Let's talk, Joy, but let's keep it honest. Something you clearly struggle with. His words cut like glass. Joy's voice rose, her mask slipping. Honest? You want honest? How about this? You're just a privileged actor who forgot where he came from. You made a fortune pretending to be tough, and now you want to play working class hero? The fire in Mark's eyes dimmed into something more dangerous, a quiet fury. You think I forgot what it's like to have nothing? You think success erased the memory of watching my mother work 3 jobs to keep us alive? But Joy didn't flinch. She waved her hand like she was swatting away an insect. Please, spare me the poor little rich boy act. Let's talk about your mother. How must she feel, watching her son bash people who are trying to make the world better? Mark blinked, once, then twice, before his voice exploded with disbelief. Make the world better? By doing what, Joy? By sitting here every day dividing people? By ridiculing half the country? By treating anyone who disagrees with you like they're beneath you? I treat stupid people like they're stupid, Joy shot back without missing a beat. The audience gasped audibly. Front row viewers visibly stunned. This wasn't TV anymore. It was a firestorm in real time. Mark leaned in, voice dropped to that icy whisper his fans knew all too well. You know what's really stupid? Thinking that because you've got a platform, you've got a license to be cruel. Thinking viewers tune in to watch you bully and belittle. You're not a host. You're a predator. Joy gave a dry laugh, but the cracks in her confidence showed. Cruel? You think this is cruel? You haven't seen Cruel yet, sweetheart. Don't call me sweetheart, Mark snapped, his voice colder than ever. And you are being cruel. You're what's wrong with this industry. You're a bully with a microphone and a grudge. Her cheeks flushed red as she fired back. I'm the bully? From the guy who assaulted people in the street? At least I use words, not fit. Mark shook his head slowly. There it is. You can't win on facts, so you go personal. You're pathetic. I'm pathetic? Joy screeched, her voice trembling now. I didn't build a career playing the same guy over and over. I didn't slap on a Boston accent and call it authenticity. Mark slammed back without hesitation. You sit there poisoning the well day after day. You reduce real pain, real people into punchlines for your monologues. That's not commentary, Joy. That's cruelty with a teleprompter. Then she stood, matching his earlier defiance, fire blazing in her eyes. You don't know what I've done for social justice, for women's rights, for every progressive cause that actually matters. Mark's voice cut through her speech like steel. By doing what? Preaching to the same crowd every day? Attacking anyone who disagrees? Calling yourself brave for telling the same jokes to people who already agree with you? Joy's voice was starting to break. By using my platform to stand up to bullies like you! Mark let out a laugh, bitter and joyless. Bullies like me? Joy, take a look around. You ambushed me. You brought me here under false pretenses, then tried to drag me through the mud. And I'm the bully? The air was thick enough to choke on. The audience sat frozen, the camera crew still, and not a single word dared interrupt the chaos. Whoopi made another desperate attempt. Let's really take that break now. But Joy's voice came out sharp, panicked. No, we're finishing this. Mark came here to promote his movie, and our viewers deserve to know exactly who they're being asked to support. Mark's laugh was hollow. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about me. This is about you. This is about how you turned political conversation into gladiator combat. About how you've made real, respectful disagreement impossible. Joy's voice, dripping with sarcasm, tried to cut him down one last time. Like that civil conversation you had with that Vietnamese man you assaulted? Oh wait, that wasn't a conversation, was it? That was just violence. The silence was suffocating. Mark's face turned bone white. When he finally spoke, his voice was nearly too soft to catch. You just proved my point. You're not fighting for justice. You're not fighting for truth. You're fighting to hurt people, to win no matter the cost. I'm fighting for the truth, Joy insisted, but even she didn't sound convinced. No, you're fighting for your truth, Mark said, rising again, and your truth only exists to make the people you hate look stupid. You don't care who you hurt, so long as you get the last word. Joy's voice cracked. You don't get to come on my show and lecture me. Mark didn't blink. And you don't get to ambush people and then act like you're the victim when they stand up to you. This isn't journalism. It's not even entertainment. It's just mean. The confrontation was nuclear. Mark and Joy had crossed every boundary, every invisible line that kept television civil. Now there was nothing left but fallout. Security had edged forward, producers on headsets yelling over one another behind the glass. Joy finally looked around and only then realized she had lost complete control. Mark stood, every muscle in his body tight with restraint, daring her to push one step further. And then she did. With a smirk so smug it would be played in news loops for years, she delivered the final, fatal blow. You know what, Mark? Maybe you should go back to your little Boston neighborhood and stay there. Leave the thinking to those who know what they're talking about. Mark's eyes went narrow, his voice low. My little Boston neighborhood? The one where people work real jobs? Where no one gets paid millions to be cruel on camera? Oh, please, Joy spat. You mean like drug dealing? Assault? That's what you were doing before Hollywood cleaned you up, wasn't it? And just like that, the line had been obliterated. There was no going back. Mark stepped forward, slow and deliberate, closing the space between himself and Joy's chair. Instantly, 3 security guards took cautious steps toward the stage, tension stretching like wire. You sure you want to keep going down this road, Joy? His voice was chillingly calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm. Because I can play this game too. You want to talk about the past? Let's do it. Let's talk about your failed stand-up career. Let's talk about how you couldn't cut it as a real entertainer, so you made a name as a professional hater. The color drained from Joy's face. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Mark's smile was razor thin and cold as ice. I know bitterness when I see it. I know someone who attacks others because she can't stand looking in the mirror. Whoopi finally found her voice, her tone tentative. Maybe we should all take a step back here, but Mark didn't budge. His eyes were locked on Joy. No, Whoopi, let's finish this. Joy wants to talk about character? Let's do that. What kind of character does it take to blindside a guest on live television? What kind of person digs into someone's past just to score points in front of a camera? Whoopi's hands trembled as she snapped, You attack me first. Mark shook his head. I called out behavior. You made it personal. You reached into my past like it was ammunition. The difference is, I can stand by what I've done. Can you say the same? The air in the room had gone thick. No one was moving. No one was breathing. This wasn't a segment anymore. It was a reckoning. My actions, Joy began, her voice shriller now, desperate, are about standing up for what's right. Standing up to people like you. Men who think they can intimidate women on live television. Intimidate? Mark laughed. But it was hollow. Joy, you're not the victim here. You've been on the attack since the moment I walked onto this set. You didn't ask tough questions. You orchestrated a public ambush. Joy fired back. That's what journalists do. Mark's head tilted slightly in disbelief. You think you're a journalist? Real journalists pursue the truth. You twist questions to provoke outrage. You don't seek clarity, you seek chaos. You're not a journalist, Joy. You're a daytime shock jock in disguise. The insult hit its target. For a flicker of a moment, Joy's face fell, her anger giving way to something raw, something real. But it didn't last. Get out, she whispered. Mark blinked, unsure he'd heard correctly. What? I said get out, Joy repeated louder. Get off my show. Get out of my studio. I don't have to listen to this. Mark's face was a portrait of stunned disbelief. You're kicking me off? After ambushing me? After dragging my name through the mud? Yes. Joy snapped, rising from her seat and pointing to the wings. I'm kicking you off. This is my show. I decide who stays. Mark's head nodded slowly as he stood straighter. This is perfect, he said quietly. Exactly perfect. You invite me on, you insult me, you twist my words, and when I stand up for myself, you play the victim and kick me off. You've just proven every single thing I said about you. Security, Joy called, her voice now cracking with emotion. Please escort Mr. Wahlberg off the set. The guards hesitated. Mark wasn't yelling, he wasn't out of control. He wasn't a threat, he was simply standing his ground. It's okay, he said gently, raising his hands. I'll leave, but not because you're kicking me out. I'll leave because I have too much self-respect to sit here and be slandered by someone who's forgotten what decency looks like. He turned toward the exit, but then he paused, looking back over his shoulder. You know what the saddest part is, Joy? You had a chance today, a real chance to do something meaningful. You could have shown that people with different opinions can still talk, still listen to each other, but you chose the easy path, the cruel path. You chose to be the villain. Joy's face was crimson now, a cocktail of rage and humiliation. Just get out, she screamed. I'm going, Mark replied calmly, but your audience will remember this. They'll remember who started the fight and who tried to end it, who came here with respect, and who weaponized a platform. Who behaved like a professional and who behaved like a bully. And guess what, Joy? It's not hard to tell the difference. He walked off the set as the room sat frozen in stunned, heavy silence. Joy stood alone in the wreckage, her hands shaking, her breathing uneven. She had won the fight, but lost the war. She had delivered the knockout blow, but to her own reputation. She hadn't just burned a bridge, she'd lit the entire studio on fire, and the world had been watching. The cameras kept rolling as Mark disappeared behind the curtains, leaving behind a war zone disguised as a morning show. Whoopi, desperate to recover even a shred of dignity, forced a smile and muttered, "We'll be right back after this commercial break." But everyone in the room knew the truth. There was no coming back. Not from this. Social media would soon be ablaze, hashtags would trend, clips would go viral, headlines would multiply like wildfire. Joy Behar explodes on Mark Wahlberg, daytime TV goes nuclear, The View implodes live on air. But behind every viral moment, one fact would remain undeniable. Joy Behar had finally gone too far. Mark Wahlberg may have come to promote a movie, but he left with something far more valuable. He walked away with his dignity, his truth, and the respect of millions who saw through the spectacle and recognized the grace in his restraint. Joy, on the other hand, had lost what no publicist could restore, the trust of her audience and the credibility of her platform. And in the days, months, even years to come when this moment was dissected and replayed across networks, feeds, and timelines, people would remember not just what was said, but how it was said. They'd remember who kept their cool and who cracked under pressure. They'd remember who showed up for a conversation and who showed up for a takedown. And in that reckoning, there would be no doubt left. Only one of them walked away with their legacy intact. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're still stunned by what just happened, and subscribe for more unfiltered moments that challenge everything you thought you knew.